I'm 73 years old, and I spent 47 years working in banks. Let me tell you something that might shock you. If I could go back to being 25, I wouldn't step foot inside a bank again. Not as an employee, anyway. I know that sounds strange coming from someone who climbed every rung of that ladder, who became Senior Vice President of Commercial Lending, who approved billion-dollar deals and managed portfolios that could fund small countries. But here's what nobody tells you about banking. We don't actually build anything. We move money around, we assess risk, we create financial instruments so complex that even we don't fully understand them sometimes, and we call it a career. I'm telling you this now because I don't have time left to waste on politeness, and because I see young people walking into those marble-floored lobbies with the same starry-eyed ambition I had, thinking they're going to master the world of finance. What they're actually doing is trading their lives for numbers on a screen. I became Senior Vice President at 51. The promotion came with a corner office on the 42nd floor, panoramic views of the city, a salary that made my father weep with pride, and a Patek Philippe watch the board gave me as a congratulatory gift. I remember standing at that window the day after my promotion, looking down at the people who looked like ants, thinking I had finally made it. My portfolio was worth $2.3 billion. I had a team of 12 analysts working under me. I was invited to Federal Reserve briefings. I spoke at conferences about liquidity management and credit risk mitigation. My signature on a document could approve or deny someone's entire business dream. That's power, right? That's success. Except that night when I came home at 11 p.m. after celebrating with colleagues. My wife was already asleep. She'd stopped waiting up for me years earlier. My daughter's college acceptance letter was on the kitchen counter, opened, because she'd given up on me being there for important moments. And I felt nothing looking at it. Not pride, not joy, not even guilt anymore. Just this hollow sensation, like I was a vault that had been emptied out and nobody had noticed, because the exterior still looked impressive. I poured myself a whiskey, sat in my home office, and realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt genuinely happy. Not professionally satisfied, not ego-stroked by a successful deal closing, but actually happy. The promotion I'd worked toward for 25 years felt like winning a trophy for a game I'd forgotten why I was playing. The catalyst came at 64, 18 months before my planned retirement. I was in the middle of a restructuring negotiation for a manufacturing client, $180 million on the line, when my left arm went numb. Right there in the boardroom, surrounded by lawyers and accountants, my vision started to blur. The paramedics said it was a minor cardiac event, not a full heart attack, but a serious warning. Lying in that hospital bed, hooked up to monitors that beeped out the rhythm of my damaged heart, I did what any banker does. I calculated. I'd worked approximately 70 hours a week for 43 years. That's 156,520 hours. At $350 per billable hour at my peak, I generated roughly $54.8 million in value for the bank over my career. They'd paid me well, sure, but they'd made multiples of that from my work. And what did I have to show for it? A retirement portfolio, a house I barely lived in, and a body that was literally breaking down from stress. My cardiologist, younger than my son, told me I had the arterial health of an 80-year-old. "What do you do for work?" he asked. When I told him, he just nodded knowingly, like he'd seen 100 of me before. The bank sent flowers and a card signed by people I'd worked with for decades but couldn't call friends. I had dedicated 43 years to financial services, building nothing, creating nothing, just moving money and taking my percentage. And suddenly I understood that if I died right then, the bank would have my position filled within 2 weeks and my clients reassigned within 2 days. Here's the professional lie they don't tell you in banking. They say we're the backbone of the economy, the lubricant that makes commerce possible, the stewards of capital allocation. We tell ourselves we're facilitating dreams, enabling businesses, helping families build wealth. It's all true technically, but here's what's also true. We're intermediaries who've convinced ourselves we're essential. We've taken the simple act of lending money and wrapped it in so much complexity, so many layers of analysis and risk assessment and financial engineering that we've created an entire cathedral to worship at the altar of interest rate spreads. I had a mentor, Gerald, who made partner at 46. He was brilliant at structured finance, could see opportunities in balance sheets that others missed. He worked until he was 70, past retirement, because he couldn't imagine life without the deals. His wife left him at 63. His kids spoke to him maybe twice a year. He died at 72, collapsed at his desk, reviewing a leveraged buyout proposal. At his funeral, the CEO gave a beautiful eulogy about his contributions to the bank. His daughter didn't attend. I realized then that Gerald had climbed the ladder faster and higher than almost anyone, and he'd placed it against entirely the wrong wall. He'd optimized for career success using every tool in our professional arsenal: due diligence, risk management, strategic planning. But he'd never once audited his own life with the same rigor he applied to client portfolios. I spent decades following his example, thinking his success was the goal, never seeing that his life was a cautionary tale. Let me contrast something for you. I closed the Meridian Energy acquisition in my final year, $890 million transaction, 18 months of negotiation, one of the most complex deals in our regional market that decade. The Wall Street Journal mentioned my name. I got a bonus that could have bought a vacation home, but I missed my grandson's birth because I was in Pittsburgh for the final signing. My son called me from the hospital and I told him I'd be there in 2 days, as soon as the deal closed. When I finally held that baby, he was 3 days old, and my daughter-in-law looked at me with this expression I'll never forget. Not anger, just profound disappointment, like she'd finally understood what my family had been telling her about me. I performed approximately 2,000 major credit analyses in my career, approved loans totaling over $8 billion, mentored 34 junior bankers who went on to significant positions. But I couldn't be present for the birth of my first grandchild. I attended maybe 30% of my kids' school events. I canceled my 25th anniversary trip because of a liquidity crisis at work. I worked through my father's final months because we were in the middle of regulatory examinations. The bank has plaques with my name on them. My family has gaps where I should have been. You know what's ironic? I spent my entire career analyzing other people's balance sheets, identifying their weaknesses, their leverage problems, their liquidity issues. But I never once looked at my own life with the same critical eye and realized I was deeply insolvent in everything that actually mattered. That first year of retirement was brutal. For 47 years, I was a banker. Then suddenly, I was nothing. I'd wake up at 5:30 a.m. out of habit, reach for my phone to check markets, then remember, it doesn't matter anymore. Nobody needs my approval. Nobody's waiting for my risk assessment. The deals happen without me. I went through genuine identity crisis, the kind they should warn you about, but don't. I'd go to dinner parties, and when people asked what I did, I'd say, I'm retired, and watch their eyes glaze over as I became instantly less interesting. My entire self-worth had been built on my title, my portfolio size, my deal history. Strip that away, and what was left, I didn't know. I started volunteering at a financial literacy nonprofit, teaching low-income families about budgeting. One woman working 2 jobs asked me how to save for her daughter's college. I gave her my whole sophisticated spiel about 529 plans and tax-advantaged vehicles, and she just looked at me and said, I meant, how do I find $50 a month to put aside? That's when it hit me. I'd spent decades in abstract finance, so removed from real people's actual lives that I'd forgotten money was supposed to be a tool for living, not an end in itself. I started reconnecting with my wife, really talking, not just coordinating schedules. I learned my daughter's favorite coffee order. I showed up for my grandson every single week. In my entire banking career, I approved loans that helped build 17 shopping centers, 42 apartment complexes, and 33 commercial facilities. In retirement, I've helped my grandson learn to ride a bike, built a garden with my wife, and actually read books instead of just financial reports. Here's what they don't teach you in banking. The skills that make you successful in finance actively damage your ability to live well. We learn to commodify everything, to see the world through risk-adjusted returns. We learn to defer gratification infinitely because there's always the next promotion, the next deal, the next bonus cycle. We learn to hedge our emotional exposure, to maintain professional distance, to see relationships in transactional terms. I became brilliant at analyzing credit risk, but terrible at being emotionally vulnerable. I could model cash flows 30 years into the future, but couldn't be present for a single dinner conversation. I mastered the art of due diligence on every business that walked through my door, but never did due diligence on my own life choices. The precision we pride ourselves on in banking, that meticulous attention to basis points and covenant structures, becomes a prison when you apply it to life. Life isn't supposed to be optimized and risk managed. It's supposed to be messy and present and real. But I'd spent so long in the artificial world of finance that I'd forgotten how to simply exist without calculating the ROI of every interaction. The irony kills me now. I spent 47 years securing other people's financial futures while bankrupting my own present moments. To every banker reading this, every young analyst grinding away at their Excel models at 2 a.m., every relationship manager who's missing their kid's soccer game for a client dinner, every executive convincing themselves that this promotion will be the one that finally makes it all worth it, please listen. I know you think you're different. I know you think your clients need you, that your deals matter, that you're building towards something. I thought the same thing. But here's what I want you to understand. The bank doesn't love you back. Those clients you're sacrificing your evenings for, they'll move to whoever offers them 10 basis points better terms. That promotion you're killing yourself to earn, it comes with more responsibility, longer hours, and higher stakes. You're not climbing toward freedom. You're climbing toward golden handcuffs. I spent decades telling myself I couldn't step back because my clients depended on me, because the deals were too important, because I was too valuable to the institution. You know what happened when I retired? They replaced me. The clients barely noticed. The deals continued. The bank grew its quarterly earnings. I was completely replaceable, as are you, as is everyone. You have maybe 30 years of retirement if you're lucky. Probably less given the stress damage you're doing to your body right now. You're spending 40 to 50 years earning money for those 30 years, but you're spending the healthiest, most energetic years of your life doing it. Run that calculation with the same analytical rigor you apply to investment decisions. The math doesn't work. Stop underwriting everyone else's dreams while putting your own life in forbearance. Stop treating your family like a portfolio you can rebalance later when you have more time. I'm 73 now. I've been retired for 7 years. Here's the paradox that would have seemed impossible to my 51-year-old self standing in that corner office. I'm happier now with no career than I was at the absolute peak of my professional achievement. I wake up and decide what I want to do, not what a client needs or what a deal demands. I'm relearning who I am without a title. I volunteer at that financial literacy nonprofit 3 days a week. And it's more rewarding than any multi-million-dollar deal I ever closed, because I see the immediate impact in people's lives instead of just numbers moving between accounts. I'm learning Spanish with my wife, something we always said we'd do someday. I know my grandkids' teachers' names and their friends' names and what they're worried about. I read novels. I take walks without checking my phone. I'm present in my own life for the first time in decades. My net worth is lower than it was at retirement because I'm actually spending money on experiences instead of just accumulating it. And I don't care, not even a little bit. The bank I gave 47 years to is now run by people who've never heard of me. My deals have been refinanced, restructured, or paid off. My carefully crafted credit analyses have been superseded by new models and different risk assessments. Everything I built has been erased or transformed. But my grandson remembers every Wednesday we spend together. My wife and I are actually partners again, not just roommates coordinating schedules. That's the legacy that lasts. So here's my final question to you, and I want you to really think about it. What will banking remember you for, and what will your family? Because I promise you, those answers won't align. The institution will remember your production numbers until the next person exceeds them, and then you'll be a footnote in some historical record nobody reads. Your family will remember whether you showed up, whether you were present, whether you chose them. I'm running out of time to fix my regrets, but you're not. Not yet. Every day you spend at that desk past the point of reasonable work-life balance is a day you're choosing the institution over yourself. Every family event you miss, every vacation you postpone, every conversation you half listen to while checking your Bloomberg terminal, those are choices, not requirements. I chose wrong for 47 years. I'm telling you this now, while you still have time to choose differently. The spreadsheet will always have one more row to fill. The deal will always need one more revision. The client will always have one more demand. But your life won't wait. Your kids grow up whether you're watching or not. Your spouse eventually stops expecting you to be present. Your health deteriorates whether you're paying attention or not. Time doesn't care about your career trajectory. I learned this at 73, after all the time I could have spent differently had already passed. Don't make my mistake. Don't climb the ladder as fast and as high as you can, only to discover at the top that it's been leaning against the wrong wall all along. The view from up there is impressive, but it's empty, and by the time you realize it, you've spent the best years of your life getting there.